There was something that I realized with the 4th grade Shinobi War that didn't quite sit right with me, and that was the fact that a lot of characters didn't end up dying. I mean, this was like the biggest war in the Naruto-verse. It was orchestrated by 2 Uchiha members who were thought to have been dead, but I mean, Madara was dead and Obito was kind of like putting things into place, while at the same time, Black Zetsu was kind of like secretly pulling the strings just to bring Kaguya back. But either way, this was still like a really big war, and not a lot of characters ended up dying. Don't get me wrong, there were a lot of characters that died during the war, but they were death fodder. I mean, do we really care about Hidden Cloud Shinobi number 47 dying during the war? No, I don't think so. If anything, the only death fodder character that we kind of respect is the first person that was in line to go up against Madara. Like, that dude had such big cojones to do that. All of that aside, it's still crazy not a lot of actual characters ended up dying in the war. So that's what this video is about. Characters who should have died during the 4th grade Shinobi War. Wow, saying that out loud kind of sounds a little bit morbid. So the first character who I think should have died during the 4th grade Shinobi War is Tenen. And it's one of the big reasons why I think Tenen should have died is just for the fact that she's practically useless. Like, out of the Konoha 12, she was like the second most useless character next to Sakura, but getting to Shippuden, she becomes absolutely useless. I will admit this though. Tenen did have, I guess, like a couple notable feats during like the early stages of the war, but after that, she absolutely does nothing. Like, there's nothing like that really sticks out to me that like Tenen did during like the remainder of the war. So yeah, I think she should have died just for the fact that she was just absolutely useless. All right, so with all that out of the way, now on to the more important characters. And honestly, it's really gonna hurt to say this because I absolutely love, you know, quite a bit of these characters. And so saying that they should have died during the war does kind of hurt. So for the first one, this is gonna be like a little bit cheating because it's multiple characters in one, and that is the 5 Kages. Like, the 5 Kages were fighting against Madara, who was a reanimation at the time and was still extremely powerful. Oh yeah, and let's not forget that he also had the Rinnegan while he was a reanimation fighting against the 5 Kages. And in a way, the 5 Kages were kind of like egging on Madara a little bit. You know, like, especially the Mitsukage, she was saying something like along the lines of like, you know, you're just so powerful that like the 5 of us have to go up against you just because of how powerful you are and everything. So even though this is kind of cheating, at the same time it isn't. Like, it's just kind of like out of respect to you, if anything. And so how does Madara respond to this? He ends up turning the tables on them and creating a bunch of wood clones. And so now each of the Kages had to go up against 5 of the Madara wood clones. And to pour salt into the wounds, Madara ends up asking them, do you want these wood clones to use Susanoo? Granted, they weren't perfect Susanoos, but at the same time, they were Susanoos from Madara wood clones. And there were 5 of them for each Kage. I mean, there was like, how couldn't you really survive that? Oh yeah, let's also not forget the fact that Tsunade was actually cut in half. Yeah, I get it, her healing and regeneration and everything is extremely overpowered, but at this point, she was extremely exhausted. And to pour even more salt in the wounds, Madara ends up showing the 5 Kages that he was holding back, and he ends up using his complete Susanoo. At this point, it should have been GG's, well played for the 5 Kages. And then after all of that, Madara ends up, you know, releasing himself from the reanimation jutsu, you know, after like the whole thing with Kabuto versus Itachi and Sasuke.
この程度の術で縛られる俺ではないことは戦ってるお前らなら納得がいくはずだが。
He releases himself from the reanimation and becomes a full living being. And then after this, you know, he continues to completely obliterate the 5 Kages. So yeah, if anything, the 5 Kages really should have died because, you know, they were going up against one of the strongest characters that we've seen in Naruto. So yeah, the 5 Kages should have died. And it hurts saying that because that means Gaara and Tsunade would have had to die, you know, especially for the fact that we kind of like grew up with Gaara and everything through his development, grew up with kind of like, you know, Tsunade with her becoming the 5th Hokage and everything. So it hurts to say that the 5 Kages should have died. But I mean, after everything they went through going up against Madara, it kind of makes sense for them to die. The next character that should have died during the 4th Great Shinobi War is the handsome devil himself, Might Guy. And the reason why I feel like Guy should have died during the 4th Great Shinobi War is because Guy ends up using all 8 gates against Madara, who at this point was a 10 Tails Jinchuriki. And the thing with using all 8 gates, it's pretty much a double-bladed sword. So for one, you get like just such immense power and everything. And depending on who's using it, like say Guy for instance, he becomes extremely powerful to the point where Madara pretty much declares him the strongest shinobi that he's ever fought. And with having that kind of power, it has its drawbacks. And with the drawback being pretty much dying after using the 8 gates. So after Guy uses all 8 gates, he's pretty much near death's doorstep and everything until Naruto comes back to life and saves Guy. And here's the thing. Naruto really shouldn't have done that because what happens afterwards? Guy doesn't do anything, you know, after using the 8 gates. He's pretty much like out the entire war. After the war, Guy is pretty much in a wheelchair. Get to Boruto, Guy's in a wheelchair and he's retired. So Guy doesn't really do much at all after the war. So as horrible as it might sound, Guy was kind of better off dead. And if Guy did die, honestly, it's not that crazy bad because he would have died knowing that, you know, he caused a lot of damage to Madara, even though he was able to regenerate and everything. But still, Guy would have died knowing that he did immense damage to Madara, and also for the fact that Madara declared him the strongest shinobi that he's ever fought. So it's not that bad, really. But at the same time, if Guy did die and Madara was able to pretty much heal himself back up to 100%, Guy would have died for nothing. So if Guy were to have died during the war, Guy should have like left a big injury on Madara to where for some odd reason Madara couldn't like heal himself back up, just so Guy could feel happy and like feel satisfied that he was able to do something to Madara before he ended up dying. So yeah, for the most part, Guy should have died during the 4th Great Shinobi War. The next person I want to talk about is Kabuto, because I feel like if anything, Kabuto really should have died during the war. And the reason why I feel like Kabuto should have died during the 4th Great Shinobi War was because he was a really big key player in this war. He was the one that ended up casting the reanimation jutsu in the first place, so he was pretty important. And after Kabuto loses to Itachi and Sasuke, and they were pretty much having Kabuto release that reanimation, Madara ends up releasing himself from the reanimation jutsu and pretty much coming back to life. So Kabuto was completely useless at that point. So I think either Itachi or Sasuke or even both of them, they should have probably just killed Kabuto because, you know, Kabuto wasn't going to be a big issue anymore. Plus, after the war, Kabuto isn't working with Orochimaru anymore. Instead, he goes back to the orphanage where he's from and pretty much kind of like runs it and everything. So Kabuto, again, he just doesn't do much after the war. Speaking of Kabuto and earlier Tsunade, I think Orochimaru should have died during the 4th Great Shinobi War. And I feel like if Orochimaru and Tsunade ended up dying during the war, in a way, this would kind of like truly pass on the title of legendary Sannin to their students. And I feel like one way they could have had Orochimaru die during the 4th Year Shinobi War is by having Orochimaru protecting Sasuke. Like the moment before Madara is about to make Sasuke into a selfie stick, Orochimaru shows up and saves him, and then he ends up dying in the process because he would have been going up against Madara. But then, later on, Sasuke still ends up dying, just a different way this time. Or instead of protecting his former student, he can go and protect his former teammate Tsunade. Like Orochimaru can show up at the time when the 5 Kages were going up against Madara, before Madara ends up cutting Tsunade in half. Orochimaru can shield her or just push her out of the way, and then he ends up dying instead. I think that would have been a nice little way to kind of end Orochimaru, one, Madara being the one to kill him, and two, protecting a former teammate. So if Orochimaru did die this way, either protecting Sasuke or protecting Tsunade, I feel like Orochimaru can kind of be seen as like somewhat of a hero for the allied shinobi forces and everything, just for the fact that he protected someone like Sasuke, who pretty much was one of the big reasons why they were able to seal up Kaguya in the first place, or protecting Tsunade because she's a Hokage and because they were former teammates and whatnot. So maybe Orochimaru can be seen as kind of like a hero of sorts. And if this was the case, I feel like it would erase at least like a couple of the crimes that he committed in the past. So there's another perk to it. But overall, I feel like Orochimaru definitely should have died during the 4th Great Shinobi War, whether he was protecting Sasuke or protecting Tsunade. So yeah, those are the characters who I think that should have died during the 4th Great Shinobi War. Comment down below, who do you think should have died during the war? Or who do you think shouldn't have died during the war? But I pretty much got nothing else to say, so I'm going to end the video here. Thank you all for watching. Don't forget to subscribe to my channel for my other discussion videos. Also for my reaction videos, so if you're into any of those, definitely subscribe to the channel, like the video, comment, the whole thing. So with all that being said, again, thank you all for watching. Until next time, see ya.